back, and this is a very special episode of the Shutdown Inning. Welcome back, Stephen Rissotto here, along with my co-host, as always, Tylor Hall. Tyler, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing good, Steven. I'm excited that this is our last episode before opening day. We're going to have real baseball next episode to talk about.
That is the big story, and that
I
is
mean,
why this is such a special episode. I mean, it's weird starting an off-season podcast. We had a lot to talk about earlier in the off-season. We got a lot of rule changes out of the way, a lot of WBC, but now we could kind of broaden our horizons a little bit. We have big plans ahead, and it's going to start right here with kind of our season prediction. But I'm excited. I'm excited for the year. I'm excited for the schedule. It's a different schedule. We're going to get to see some more teams, but it's a very exciting time of year.
yeah, I'm before we hop into predictions, because that's the reason we're here today, but I am excited about the schedule for a few reasons. I think it'll be, great for the balance of the schedule. So if you have a cake division, you can't just walk through as easily. And also, I think just for baseball fans in general, it's a win. If most fans just follow one team mostly, they'll maybe watch some other national televised games here and there. So you're going to get to watch your team play every team in baseball. You're going to get to see guys that you don't normally see. And so that's awesome. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to help a lot of teams that play in really good divisions. And we talk a lot of Giants on here, and I'm sure we'll get to it maybe, but the Giants play in a good division, but their schedule is going to be more spread out, so they don't have to face the Dodgers and Padres. But with that, they would eventually have to face Houston and the Yankees and some of those good teams in the American League. But I agree with you. I think it's a great advancement for baseball, and it's good for the marketing, especially coming off the WBC when there's certain players that fans want to see. They want to see the Otanis and you know ballparks around the country. They're going to get to see him when they wouldn't have seen him otherwise. So it's definitely a cool feature to an otherwise interesting off season that had new rules. This was the change that everybody kind of clinged on to, and universally, I think, was pretty well liked. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, Tyler and I figured that we'd get into some predictions. We're going to go kind of over each division briefly and talk about the teams and what we kind of expect out of them, and we're gonna say where we think they're going to finish, and then we'll list off maybe some teams that have a chance at making that wild card, the 3 wild card spots in each league, and then we'll do some awards at the end. Sound good, Tyler?
Sounds amazing, Steven. Way to line it up there.
Yeah, and I do real quick. We didn't plan this, but we talked about it last episode. I think Sergio Romo came into the game last night in the exhibition game against the A's, and I know you're a big Romo fan. I am too. I mean, it was pretty amazing to see him retire as a member of the Giants.
Yeah, dude, that was really cool. I wish he could have gotten an out, but you can't get everything you wish for. But it was just cool that, El Machone, him running in from center field. They kind of let him walk out to the bullpen too. They let him start the game in the dugout. So they gave him plenty of time to get some love from the fans. And the thing he did with the kid signing his hat that no one really knew about till after the game was really cool. I mean, it was Sergio Romo. And that's why I love the guy. I mean, you could tell he was emotional coming off the field, and it was just awesome. So it was I've said it before, he's one of my favorite Giants of all time that I've gotten to watch with my own eyes, and glad he got to come home and end it in orange and black.
And he got dinged with the pitch clock violation. So that's a good way to go. He got screwed a
Oh
few times in
God.
that outing, but it was definitely really cool to see Sergio Romo trot out for the final time and get the love from the fans because he's one of the best in franchise history in terms of how beloved he was. But anyhow, I had to throw that out there just to get some things started. So let's start with some of these divisions around the league, and I do want to touch on the American League East first, and then we'll go to the National League East. The Yankees won the division
What,
last.
why this is my thing. I
Yes.
hate that like every list I look at starts with the East. Can we start with the West?
Let's start with the West. You know what? I think I
Every
agree with you.
every breakdown you see, every national thing, it always starts with the East. Let's start with the West.
Let's start with the West. Let's start with the National League West. How about that? Give
Let's do.
our listeners some familiarity with, because we actually talk a lot about the National League West, and I think we're better because of it, because that's a really good division. So good call on
Yep.
that. And I guess the National League West is an interesting division. There's some uncertainty. There's some dominance mixed in. There's some up and coming. I mean, what do you kind of see? Where's kind of your rankings here, I guess, to start for the National League West?
I mean, just starting from the bottom, I think it's pretty clear to most people that at least to start the season, the Rockies are in the cellar in the NL West. Um, but I actually have the Padres winning the division this year. So
Hmm.
starting at the going back to the top, I've got the Padres winning the division. Think the Dodgers aren't as, I mean, they're still stacked. They have a great roster, but I think, with them losing a few guys and Lux going down and the additions that the Padres have made, and they're basically, if you think of it as like they're basically acquiring Tatis because they didn't have him last year. I see them winning the division by a game or two. So I've got the Padres, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, who I know both of us think is a surprise team for some people that maybe not make the playoffs, but they'll make some more noise than most people might expect. And then the Rockies.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you on the Rockies. I mean, they they think that they could play 500 baseball according to the owner. It's not going to happen. Um, I guess number 4 and number 3 is kind of where it gets dicey because, the Giants, they added a lot of pieces. We kind of documented it on here. They added some guys that were a little less than the names of Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa. Um, and a lot of people think maybe
A
it's
little less.
a little less, yeah. A lot of people think it's like marginally better, and they finished 500 last year. um I would guess they're around 84, 85 wins, maybe in the mix for another postseason spot. I like the depth that they have in the rotation. I think they did a good job there. They just need to catch the ball. um and the thing about Arizona, and I do have Arizona still fourth in the division, although sometimes I get convinced by how good their outfield is, and they have one of the best young athletic outfields in the game that's coming up with Corbin Carroll and Jake McCarthy, and it's just they're pretty loaded, and they're pitching. They have good pitching too. Um, and that's interesting that you have San Diego first. I worry about their back end of the rotation and a little bit about their bullpen, but then again, I have the same kind of thoughts about the Dodgers back end of the rotation.
Exactly.
Um, after Urias and Dustin May and Kershaw, I mean, Kershaw and Urias are kind of the only guys you know what you're going to get out of. May is coming off an injury, and then to round it out, like Noah Syndergaard as your fourth starter, and then who knows who's the fifth starter. So I guess that there's some worry there, and you're going with some just pieces in the outfield that are kind of spare parts with Trace Thompson and David Peralta. Mookie Betts is still there. And then the left side of the infield got kind of ransacked with injuries. And Max
Yep.
Muncy is apparently going to play some third, and then Miguel Rojas at short. I still think that they're going to win their like 90 games. They're going to find a way to get their 90 wins. One of those guys is going to have a good year. Um, but San
Yeah.
Diego, we talked about San Diego a lot. We always talk about their payroll, but um, their pitching, I mean, it just doesn't impress me enough, I think, outside of Musgrove. So I would still have them number 2, but I could also see them
You
making a move.
Darvish would like a word.
Yeah.
Yu's a pretty underrated guy. I feel like he kind of flies under some radars, but if you look at his stats year in and year out, I mean, he's solid. And then Blake Snell's kind of a mixed bag. You'll get some great starts out of him. You'll get some flops.
Yeah.
And I just think the concerns with their pitching is going to be made up by that offense if they stay healthy. I mean, you've got Bogarts, Tatis, Soto, Machado, Cronenworth is nothing to, just scroll past. So, that's more than half your lineup is, pretty solid major leagues, if not, top of the line for some of those guys, at least three of them that so
Mm. Do you think
like I said, it's
their
just a couple games.
yeah? Do you think their pitching is better than LA's?
Mm, I'd say it's close to a wash. I'd say
Mm.
LA probably has the slight nod in the rotation, but I think it's pretty close. And then with the uncertainty in the Dodgers lineup that you mentioned, I think that's where the Padres really take the advantage for me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that I think the Padres might score more runs, but I guess it's a matter of who's going to get outs late in the game because the Dodgers are going to roll in with kind of Evan Phillips as their closer. It looks like they don't have Kenley
Mhm.
Jansen anymore. It should be interesting to see how they kind of get outs. Um, but yeah, I mean, is so we I have the Dodgers winning the division. Tyler has the Padres winning the division. And I guess we could get to the wild card teams maybe a little bit later, because maybe one or the other will become a wild card team when we get into that. Let's go to the NL Central because we'll stay in the National League here. And this is another division that has been like kind of bad for a while. St. Louis won the division last year with 93 wins. Milwaukee, we know they're pitching, they're in the mix. What did you kind of have for the National League Central? Because, there's some money spent by the Cubs too. I mean, a lot of moving parts, I feel like, with these teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still have the Cardinals winning. I do think they're going to win even fewer games this year. I have them winning the division with like 88 wins.
Mm.
You know, they've got just some proven guys that until they prove otherwise. I mean, it's hard for me to go against Arenado and Goldschmidt. Um, and then from there, I think that the toss-up positioning there for me is second and third with the Cubs and the Brewers. Um, I think that will be kind of the toss-up there. I'd probably give the lean to the Brewers slightly, but some of those new additions that you mentioned from the Cubs could make some noise. And then the bottom, this is where it gets really weak for them, but I'd probably put the Reds fourth and the Pirates fifth. The Pirates do have some young talent that I'm excited to watch some more of. O'Neal Cruz, maybe Brian Hayes can put it together a little bit more this year. I feel like he was a top prospect and he's been like a serviceable player. So hopefully he can get some more in. But yeah, I don't see this being the year the Cardinals don't win the division. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I like the Cardinals too, and I don't think they're going to win 90 games. I agree with that, but I do think they're going to win the division. My only issue with St. Louis is they don't have a good frontline starter. Miles Michaelis right now is their ace. Jack Flaherty's been kind of hurt. Jordan Montgomery is kind of a mid-rotation guy. And then I don't know who's even in the back end of the rotation. But they have some young guys too. They have Nolan Gorman, a former first round pick. Jordan Walker just made the team. We'll get to him maybe soon. But you know, they I think they're gonna score
Well,
runs. I
we
think
got to stop at Jordan Walker for a second
yes.
because, I mean, big news for Steven Risotto. He is finally older than a Major League Baseball player.
Yes. Shout out to Jordan Walker, who's born in May 2002. As in April
And you're
2002.
April, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, he's May 22nd. So I'm exactly 1 month older than Jordan Walker. So, I mean, this nothing makes me happier than seeing that news. So,
I mean,
I've
hey,
been
I
waiting
told
for
you
this.
pretty soon you're going to be in my seat and you'll be counting the few guys that are older than you.
Yeah,
So enjoy it while you can, man.
I got 2 decades until that happens. So,
Yeah. But
but
yeah, sorry, we couldn't just maybe talk about Jordan Walker later. That's big news for the shutdown inning.
that
But
is.
sorry, go ahead with your the rest of your central there.
Yeah, and we were trying to figure out where Jordan Walker's going to play. So
Yeah, it
apparently he's
looks
going
like
to.
the outfield.
Yeah, it does look like because he's not playing first or third. He's kind of a third baseman by trade, but he might have to learn the outfield or he might, get some reps at DH. I guess we'll have to see with him. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the Brewers, because of their pitching, because of their starting pitching especially, they're probably going to finish second in the division. But I've kind of been turned off by their lineup the last few years. I feel like they haven't put out a lineup that maybe could score runs at a high level. Um, they need bounce back seasons from guys like Christian Yelich and Jesse Winker for them to
They've
even be
needed
in
a,
the
they've needed
conversation.
a they've needed a bounce back from Yelich for a couple years now.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been all over the place injured, but Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, I mean, it doesn't get better than that in terms of, a 1-2 punch. And I think if they could win, like, let's say they start 25 games between, let's say they start, let's say 55 games between the two of them, that could have the potential to put a really big dent in their win total, for the better.
Yeah.
So I like that 1-2 punch. Cubs, I mean, I agree with you too. I think they're interesting. I have them third, for the sole reason that I think they're going to score runs and I think they're going to play really good defense. They have a great middle infield
Mhm.
with Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner. And by the way, Miles Mastroboni made the
They
team. I think
just
that, yeah,
hey,
shout out to
they
him.
just extended Horner, right? Didn't they just
They
extend
did.
him?
They did. I didn't look at the terms, but I did see a Nico Horner extension. He's a Stanford guy, Tyler, so he's a very smart guy. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, Bellinger in center. I mean, good defensive team on paper. And I think that they could be exciting too. I mean, I feel like whenever the Cubs like have good teams, it's fun for baseball, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always fun to watch,
Yeah.
those summer games at Wrigley where the ball's flying out and the Cubs are good. So, there's a handful of teams that the baseball's always better when that team is good, and the Cubs are definitely one of them.
Yeah, and another team with kind of question marks in the rotation, like Stroman, probably not an ace. I think they could upgrade there at some point. And then yeah, nothing there with the Pirates and the Reds back end of the division. I'd say pick your poison, to be honest, who finishes fourth or fifth. I could see the Pirates finishing fourth. I like them enough.
Literal
Um,
poison.
yeah, pick your poison. Yeah, O'Neal Cruz, I mean, a guy who could win Rookie of the Year, right? I don't know if he's rookie eligible still. Is he? I'd have to look at
I
that.
don't think so. But yeah, I mean, he's fun to watch. I mean,
He
he's
is.
throwing darts from short. He's hitting balls into the river. He's
Yeah.
glad he's not a Dodger anymore.
And you know who's back in Pittsburgh?
Andrew McCutchen. That'll be
Andrew
fun to watch him. I'm
McCutchen.
glad he's kind of, he might even, and he doesn't like, he's not, it's not like a definite swan song like retirement tour. He could play another couple of years, I think, but it'll be fun to watch him, back in Pittsburgh where he's, a franchise icon.
Yeah, and if you look at the guys that are established big leaguers, there's two in terms of position players, and it's Brian Reynolds and Andrew McCutchen. And Reynolds still is kind of, salivating about the idea of a trade. So I guess we'll see what happens there. And then the Reds, I mean, I don't have much to say about them. Teams are going to go in there
Yeah.
and score runs as they always do because
Yeah.
there's no pitching. But
And the
um,
ballpark. That's a bad combo. Bad pitching and a hitter's park. It's a recipe for disaster.
a recipe for disaster, 100%. But yeah, Cardinals winning the division. That's what I got for the Central. And then National League East. Should we travel east
Yeah.
a little bit?
Let's go east. Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, this is a juggernaut of a division. At least at the top three teams there. I mean, I was thinking about this for a while. You could pick any of the Braves, Mets, or Phillies to win this and make a valid argument that people couldn't really poke holes in. Personally, I'm going with the Mets. I just think that, despite Diaz going down, they're handing out money like they're garlic fries over there. So that's who I have winning the division. But like I said, you could go any which way. So I guess my order there would be the Mets. Very closely behind them, I have the Braves, the Phillies in third. I think, losing Hoskins will be a decent blow to them, but then they'll get, a little rejuvenation when a guy named Bryce Harper comes back. Potential, they're not even starting him on the 60-day. They're going to leave the window open for a little while for him to come back a little earlier than planned. They were saying originally their target was the All-Star break for him, but they're leaving the door cracked open to maybe get back a little sooner, and that would be
Wow,
huge for their lineup. I
I
mean,
didn't know that.
that prediction could change if Harper's back by the end of May. And then I would probably go Miami for sure, and then the Nationals. I mean, the Nationals might be fighting a team in the Bay Area for who has the worst record in baseball at the end of the year. So that's how I see it playing out. What are you doing, Mr. Risotto?
Yeah, so I had trouble. I mean, I think I'm gonna go with the Mets too, but it was a very hesitant like selection because they're gonna hit, but they have so much invested in two guys that are combined 60 or combined almost 80 years old. With Scherzer and
Yeah,
Verlander. Guys that could be older than you too. You said Scherzer might have
they're
you by a few
two of the
months.
two of the few. I think Scherzer's got me by a month or two. So, you know, yeah, two of the few guys that are older than me in baseball. I'm actually going to Google Max's age right now just to see if I'm accurate there.
Yeah, and they're just a good coach team. I love Buck Showalter. I like everything he's about and all he does. But um, just there's a lot there invested in those two guys, and then to mix in Kodai Senga, who's never
I
pitched in
mean,
this country, and Carlos Carrasco, who's never healthy. It's a little
yeah,
bit of a recipe for, things to go wrong with the pitching side of things. Um, I've liked the Braves for years now. I think they're a steady number two. I'll spoil it. I think they're going to make the playoffs. We'll get to that in a bit, but I like their position player group with Acuna and Olson and Riley. I think Olson is an under the radar dark horse MVP pick. So shout out him and Riley too. Just that's a really good, 1-2
mhm.
punch, or not 1-2, but 3-4 or 2-3, however they're going to do it. They got a rookie of the year there in Michael Harris, and they just traded for a catcher. I mean, that team is stacked. I might even be convincing myself to put them one.
Yeah,
Um, because Freed and Spencer Strider, who
yeah. I
was
mean, then
great.
their rotation, you got yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
might,
I was
you
just
know
gonna say,
what?
their
Yeah.
offense is loaded, and they have like the opposite rotation of the Mets, where the Mets are relying on guys with a pile of Cy Youngs, and the Braves rather have some younger guys who might be in their shoes in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, you know what? I might swap it on you, Tyler. I might go with the Braves winning the division. I might have just convinced
Yeah,
myself in the last 20 seconds about the Braves because I like their bullpen too. And a few years ago, their bullpen came up really big in postseason, and it just like they blew the
hmm
lights off this play, off that play. I don't know where I was going with that, but it sounded really cool when I
they
said
were
it.
really good.
Yeah, they blew the lights off this place,
No, it didn't.
but not this place. I had so much high hopes for that saying right there, and it just flopped. Um, they blew the lights off this place. Anyhow, and then yeah, I agree. Probably Phillies next. Trey Turner's a big addition. I always forget that they got him. I always forget that they could plug him into their group that they kind of already had, especially when Bryce gets back, like you mentioned. And I didn't know that
Yeah,
he could come back sooner. I didn't realize that. And then
yeah,
I think you could match up Nola and Wheeler with any 1-2, in a playoff series. So they could be
yeah,
interesting as well. And their bullpen, I think, got a lot better. And then yeah, Nationals and Marlins, or probably Marlins and then Nationals. Marlins have good young arms, especially Alcantara, and then the Nationals are kind of retooling and trying to get sold.
yeah.
So
I feel like the Nationals are made like the Marlins of a couple years ago. They kind of have a good young group too, but they're very green and unproven. Where some of the young guys for the Marlins have shown that they can at least play quite a bit, and so your Jazzes and a couple of those other guys down there. So that's why I put them ahead of the Nationals. I think the Nationals are just gonna be pretty rough summer in the nation's capital.
yeah, Patrick Corbin had a horrendous year last year. He was like one of the worst statistical pitchers, and he's starting opening day, and that just gives you everything you need to know. But I also think that shout out to, you and I have done fantasy drafts, I guess, the past few weeks. Joey Meneses, I can't say his name right. I think I'm saying it right there. He's appeared in a lot of our drafts. So shout out to him as a young
Yeah,
player.
Yeah, he's got, I think, first base and outfield eligibility in a lot. He kind of had a big World Baseball Classic where I think a lot of people kind of learned his name there. I think he had a couple home runs against the United States in that Mexico US game. And if you do draft him, I didn't get him in any of my leagues, but Meneses to Society, that is a name to consider.
Yes, and he had a 156 WRC plus in 56 games last year. So he made the most out of his opportunity last year. So
Yeah.
another guy who could be a dark horse rookie of the year or front runner rookie of the year. Um,
Yeah.
and then you know what? We hate the
Should
American
we?
League East so much that we're gonna save them for last. So let's fly across the
All right.
country. Let's go back to the
We'll
West.
come back west. All
Yeah.
righty. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like this might be one that I'm going with the Seattle Mariners to win the division. I I think a lot, the Astros are the defending champs, so a lot of people are just gonna go right to them. I've got the Mariners. They made some great strides last year. Finally made the playoffs, and I think they kind of continue that momentum. They've got some great young talent. Julio Rodriguez, arguably, the brightest young talent. I know there's a few guys you could say that about, but he's definitely in that conversation. And, I just think they keep building on that magic. Maybe the Astros have a little bit of the hangover. They're going to miss Altuve for a little bit of time. So I've got the Mariners winning that division there. So then I would, just to round out my standings there, I would go the Astros in second, Rangers in third, Angels in fourth, A's in last.
Yeah, I mean that's a good call on the Mariners. I like them too, but I like them as a second place team. Because I like the Astros too much I mean, last October it was like I always felt like okay, Verlander might leave, but it's fine because the amount of arms that are running out here in
Yeah.
October that are just quality, like it doesn't even matter. And I think they're going to be fine with Valdez and Christian Javier and those guys, Garcia. Um,
And I mean, you let Verlander go, and then you have one of the top arms prospects in baseball, and Hunter Brown,
mhm.
to take his place. I mean,
Yeah, and we love hunters in baseball, right? Um,
absolutely.
and the position player, I mean, just really deep lineup, and it got deeper with. I mean, can you imagine the damage that Abreu's going to do with the Crawford boxes in left field? That's going to be
Yeah.
insane. Um, and I
Yeah.
think
I
that's
mean,
a tremendous fit.
yeah. I mean, Jordan. I mean, he blew up in the postseason. He's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. Tucker, Bregman. Bregman's like the fourth or best hitter in their lineup. That's nuts. I mean,
Yeah, very strange, but it makes sense. I mean, they're deep. They're really deep, and you know,
Mauricio Dubon.
yes, utility guy. He'll be in there. Maybe getting some more starts at second, perhaps. Um,
Yes, at least the first couple months, I could see that.
yeah, with Jose Altuve out for now. But yeah, I'll have them first, and then like you, for the same reasons, I won't kind of go on about Seattle, but they were such a feel good story last year. I think they're going to play with that momentum a little bit this year and go in strong. And I think their X factor is Jared Kelnick. So I'll give a player to watch for them. He's been kind of a guy that they've hoped would break out, hasn't yet, possibly could this year. And then they have some guys in the rotation that maybe we haven't heard about. Logan Gilbert's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
George Kirby, I think, came out of the bullpen for a game last year. He's good too. And they have Robbie Ray and Castillo. And then kind of, you know, I hate that like the Angels. I mean, I have them third. We all know what the Angels, we've talked about them enough on here with Trout and Ohtani, and they lose every game eight to
Yeah, it's like
four.
what year are they gonna put it together? I mean, this might be their year they have to put it together because Otani could very well be gone, especially if they don't make the playoffs. He said time and time again he wants to win. And if the Angels aren't doing that, I don't think he's gonna stick around and see. So,
Yeah, and
if Rendon can stay healthy for a year and be Rendon again, maybe they may put a little run together.
yeah, no, that's a good call.
I think
And
they added Tyler Anderson to the rotation. They added
Jesus.
some nice pieces. Is that where you were about to go?
No, I was gonna say, did you see the new the I'm gonna So my background, if you're listening, I'm going to show Tyler a picture here. But did you see the Los Angeles Times, the Angels preview cover for the Los Angeles Times? And it's a kite of Shohei Ohtani, and
Yeah,
all the players are trying to chase it from blowing away. And there's Mike Trout trying to chase it. Rendon's in there trying to pull it back. I thought that was an excellent
yeah.
cover by the Los Angeles Times. And Artie Moreno's face is in the scoreboard in the background. So
Nice. Yeah, I had seen that. I actually didn't notice it was Moreno on the scoreboard, but I did notice the kite and all the guys trying to keep him from flying away.
yeah, he's. I mean, that's the storyline around this team is they got to figure out a way to give him some motivation to re-sign there. Because as a baseball fan, you want to see Ohtani in a big game. As an Angels fan, you want to see him in the organization past this year. So you got to do what you got to do to keep him in the uniform. Um, and there's a part of me, as much as like every team wants Ohtani, there's a part of me that would like to see him stick it out with the Angels. That was the team he picked because he thought that he would end up in postseason, and same goes for Trout. But if it doesn't go that way, it doesn't go that way. So I have them third in the division, and then I have Bruce Bochy's Rangers fourth. They have an all
Yeah,
free
see, the reason
agency
I put them in
rotation.
third, I put them in third just because of Bruce Bochy. Well, and and the arms that they got, but I think he's gonna help unlock some potential there. I mean, they're still a third place team, but if DeGrom can stay healthy, they got Uvalde. Being able to move John Gray from arguably their ace down to third or fourth is huge for them. They've got some good young bats. They got Seager, Semien, Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Jung is one of the top offensive prospects. He's gonna start with them, and so I got them in third. I don't see them catching the Astros or the Mariners by any stretch, but that's why I put them above. I put them above the Angels.
Yeah, I mean, oh, gosh, hypothetically, they might have more depth, I think, than the Angels offensively, and especially pitching. Like, they have like an all free agent. Like they basically built the rotation this year in free agency. I mean, pretty much they signed DeGrom, they signed
Yeah.
Evaldi, they re-signed Perez, they signed Gray. I think they might have had Gray, but he was a free agent last year, and they signed Andrew Heaney. So it's like an all free agent. And their bullpen, they have some nasty guys back there. Um, I'm interested to see what Bruce Bochy could do with this team. I think that's a wise move doing it just because Bruce Bochy putting them third. So I like that actually.
Yeah.
Um, and then not much to say about the A's. They're last in the division or will be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I've said it on the pod before. It's just, I genuinely feel bad for my friends that are A's fans because they're not putting an exciting product out there. They're trying to move the team. They're not, they got the treehouse and the drum line, and that's about it as far as ambiance at the stadium. Sit with some wildlife, so
yeah. And
yeah.
Alex Pavlovich was talking about on Giants Talk. He was talking about the Bay Bridge series, and he was saying that in the last few years, or they would always show up to the Bay Bridge series at in Oakland, and there would be like empty hot dog wrappers in the press box from the Raiders season because nobody cleaned up the press
Oh
box.
my gosh.
So, yeah, I know that's kind of a low knock on the ballpark and not the team, but not much going on in Oakland. We'll see. I know they gained up on Sergio Romo and the Giants, but um, yeah, not much going on there with them. So, um, all right, let's hop on a plane. Let's go Central. Central
Yeah. I mean,
American League.
you take the lead on this one. I feel like I've kind of started the other one, so lead it
Okay,
off.
yeah. Um, so this is kind of between the Guardians and the White Sox. The White Sox weren't healthy last year. I still have questions, but I'm gonna go with Guardians. I think their pitching last year really matured. Everybody talked about them in a playoff series and how, their pitching staff was inexperienced and all. But I think that that experience is going to help them into this year. And they have guys that could just kind of, they're crafty offensively with Steven Kwan. Ahmed Rosario could steal a base. I know I just traded him to you in fantasy. Jose Ramirez is a very creative hitter. Um, so they have some good, like solid guys in the lineup that could score runs, and then their pitching is just full of wealth with Bieber and Quantrill and Plesac, and when he's healthy, McKenzie and Clase is probably the best closer in the American League. So I like them. I don't think they're going to be dethroned. Um, this is a big year for the White Sox. Like they really got to step it up. They got to all be on the field at the same time. I'm hoping they get it together. And I'm hoping, Lucas Giolito gets back to where he needs to be, because that would be a disgusting top three rotation of Cease, Lynn, and Giolito if he's there. And then I guess to round it out, I haven't really thought about this. I guess the Twins, Tigers, and then the Royals. So, although the Royals, they have Bobby Witt Jr., I think they're up and coming. They got that first baseman, Pasquantino. Um, but
Yeah.
that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually thinking between the Guardians and the Twins. I think maybe
Oh,
just the White Sox are just too perpetually banged up for me to like get behind them.
hmm
Feel like they're this always seem to, to Giolito's seems to always be hurt. Robert always seems to be hurt. Eloy Jimenez is banged up quite often. So I actually am going with same with you. I'm going with the Guardians to win it, but with the Twins in second. They've built a pretty nice rotation themselves with Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez in that trade with the Marlins. Tyler Mahle, is it Mall? I always
I
the
think it's
spelling there always
Maley.
throws me off. And
Maley.
Maley, thank you. That makes sense. Reading's always been tough for me. That's why I was a baseball fan. And Kenta Maeda. So, and they've got Carlos Correa, where he has always wanted to be in Minnesota. His third pick was where he always wanted to end up. A key to them might be if Byron Buxton can stay healthy. I mean,
Oh yeah.
how many times have we said healthy today? I mean, obviously 162 games is a marathon and not a sprint, but he's just one of those guys where like I've always wished he could stay healthy because he is so fun to watch. I don't play video games as much anymore as I used to. I haven't played the show in like a decade, but I saw they released like the top hitter rankings, and Byron Buxton was like tied for 10th at like 92 or 93 overall hitter ranking, but he's never on the field.
Mhm.
And he's fun to chase. It's fun to watch him chase it down in center when he's healthy enough to play out there. So I have them in second. White Sox in third. I could see them, winning the division as well. But as far as starting the season and my thoughts on them, I have them in third. And then I'll go Royals and then Tigers just to keep it a little mixed up from you, without spending too much time on the bottom feeders in each division. But I mean, this is to me the weakest division in baseball overall. Are you? How do you? Are you? Would you put the AL Central? It's got to be between the two Centrals.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about the Tigers and the Royals. I don't know too much about what they have. Um, so that's why I would put them as the bottom division. I really would. Detroit, like I feel like they're full of players that are, were prospects at one point but haven't yet panned out, like Casey Mize and
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Torkelson. Riley Green could be owed a big year. They made the Baez move for some reason. I've never been a big Baez like truther. Um, I don't know. It's a bit of a strange Matt Manning was the other arm that they had. I don't know. I feel like a lot has to go right for them, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would happen. But yeah, I would say it's the weakest division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it going right for them this year. I know they do have some good prospects coming up. I've done some legacy fantasy drafts this off season, and there's a lot of Tigers when you start having to, really dig into the minors. There are a lot of Tigers on that list, but that's not for 2023. So that's why I kind of put them near the bottom. And then I believe the one thing for the Tigers, though, Miguel Cabrera, this is his final season, right? Has he announced it, or is he like holding on? Oh, yeah, he's announced it.
He
Yes, I
has
mean
announced it. Yeah.
that'll be. It's crazy to think how long He's kind of going to get, I think he's going to get the Albert Pujols treatment wherever he goes this year. Hopefully he does. And as Steven likes to say, he's still looking for that slider.
He is.
But yeah, so I think that's good for the Central. You
Yeah.
feeling good on the Central?
Not feeling good, but I think I like my predictions at least. And this is fun because we're gonna look back at this at the end of the year and just laugh maybe at some of the predictions. But
When we get that Tigers Reds World Series.
yeah, I hope one of these teams just like completely flips a division upside and blows the roof off this place. So
There we go. You nailed it.
yeah. I still haven't figured out what this place is exactly in particular, but I like the saying and I'm going to use it
The
from here on out.
baseball world.
But
This
yeah,
place is the baseball world.
I always laughed in movies when they said, "I'm going to blow the roof off this place." Um, that's always a funny saying. Just like another one that I like is, "Aren't you a tall drink of water?" So there's certain sayings that I always find comical. Let's go east. Well, let's go with the division that we didn't want to start with because it seems like the rest of the baseball world just loves too much. With the East, and I guess I'll start. I think the Blue Jays. This is it for the Blue Jays. This is the time to shine for them. They're going to win the division. They have an unbelievable group of position players, just guys that could be all stars all across the board, from Springer to Bichette to Guerrero to Chapman, who could bounce back and have a good year, to a veteran guy like Merrifield and Belt, and it's just a good team all the way around. And
I don't know if you said Springer, who you also traded to me in fantasy this week.
yes, Springer is a member now of Tyler's fantasy team. So shout out to George for agreeing to that trade. No, he didn't agree. It was me. And their starting pitching's good too. Manoah is like one of the better pitchers in the American League, and Gosman and Bassett, they added him. And their bullpen's pretty decent too. Big things coming north of the border. So I have them one. This is where it gets tough. And I know you might have the same issue that I'm having here, but I think I'll put the Yankees two. But their pitching, just looking at what has happened preseason here, with Garrett Cole kind of being the only reliable guy they have right now, and Nestor Cortez. But Cortez was hurt in spring. They lost Frankie Montas. They're going to be without Rodon for the start of the year. That's the big question mark. Like
Severino's beat up too. They're saying he'll miss at least 4 or 5 starts.
Yes. Yeah, I completely forgot about that one. And their bullpen's good. Their bullpen might be able to get them through some games and kind of shorten the leash for the starters, which is good. But their offense, there's just maybe too much swing and miss with the guys that they have. It's been like that for a few years. They have guys that could carry, like Anthony Rizzo, when he's hot, he could carry a team for a week, And Judge is Judge. He'll put his 40 homers in the mix. But
I mean, yeah, I think with the Yankees, a lot of people just assume they're always going to have a good offense. But shout out to Brooks Knudsen. I think when Judge was trying to decide between the Yankees and the Giants, everyone was like, well, the Yankees offense is better. Like, if you take Aaron Judge off of the Yankees offense last year, I think they were pretty similar to the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think was the team that Brooks did the comp on. So, I mean, if Judge, if Judge, Judge doesn't hit 62, if he, replicating last year most likely isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So who's going to step up to kind of make up for that decline that Judge has? I'm not saying he's going to like fall off the table, but you can't go into a year expecting a year like Judge had last year. There's most likely going to be some regression, still all-star levels, no doubt. But some of these guys are going to have to step it up.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. And it's tough to put them second. I think if they had a healthy rotation, maybe there's a chance I would put them above Toronto, but they don't. So that's the reality of it. And then this is where I'm going to turn some heads. Tampa's kind of been consistent for a long time now, but I'm going to say the Baltimore Orioles surpassed them in this division.
Wow.
I'm going to say they surpassed them. I love Gunnar Henderson and I love Adley Rutschman. Cedric Mullins and Mountcastle and Anthony Santander, Austin. I mean, this is a good team. And their bullpen, I think, has some, I've seen, and I'm judging their bullpen based on who I've seen in fantasy. And they've got guys like relievers that like have appeared on my draft board at times. But thing about them is going to be starting pitching. That's probably their only issue. They don't have a lot of depth
Mhm.
there. Um, and then Tampa Bay does have depth there. That's what makes them so good. And they kind of do what they do with their offense and their platooning. I have them fourth in the division, but technically you could flip them, but I want to be fun with the Orioles pick. And then my last team would probably be the Red Sox, who are kind of in no man's land, which is never a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking over some stories, and a lot of them have the Red Sox in the cellar there, and I do as well. But they still had them at like a 79-80 win clip, and for having that as your basement of the division, it just
Mhm.
shows you how strong this division is.
Yeah, a good bad
I do
team.
have, yeah, I've got the same 1-2 as you. I've got Toronto. I mean, they're like you. I'm not rehashing. I don't want to go back and say the same thing, but I mean, their offense is amazing. A lot of young guys. They're going to be there. They're going to have Bichette and Vladdy and some of those other guys for who knows how long.
Shout out to Chris
Um,
Corbett, by the way, his team.
yeah. Gossman leading that rotation that's pretty deep. And then, shout out to my buddy Anthony Bass, who's in the pen there.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to that series in June. I'm flying up for that Giants Jays series. That'll be a lot of fun. For a lot of the same reasons you mentioned, I've got the Yankees in second. And then, I'm excited for what the Orioles did last year too. I wanted to put them third, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. I do have the Rays in third, followed by the Orioles and then the Red Sox. I think the Jays and Yankees will be kind of a little bit above the other three, and then those three can kind of battle it out from there. And I wouldn't be surprised how the bottom three end up. But for prediction's sake, I'm going Rays, Orioles, Red Sox.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's definitely pretty solid. Um, and the one thing we're missing, we just listed off the division leaders. Um, this would be a good time to list the wild card. The teams that are going to appear in the wild card round, who make it as a secondary team. There, I don't know how to describe the wild card teams,
Yeah.
but
So to recap,
Mhm.
we're getting into the playoff team predictions. We're not going to do the whole. This team will win the division series. This team will. But so you have the Astros, Guardians, Blue Jays winning their division
Correct.
in the American League. I've got Mariners, Guardians, Jays. So, the top three teams that don't win their division go in as wild cards. So, yeah, who are your AL wild card teams to round out the AL postseason?
My AL wildcard teams will be the Yankees, the the Yankees, the Orioles, and I will go with the Mariners. Not in that order.
Nice.
So two teams from the
Okay.
East. What about you?
Okay. Actually, for the AL, I'm going a team from each division is going to make it out. I'm going to go Yankees, Astros, Twins. I've got the Twins coming in as the final one. I project them around 84 wins. I just think the East, even though with the balanced schedule, there's the bottom three, like I just kind of mentioned, they're going to beat up on each other and no one's going to kind of break free from the pack. I think I could see all of them in like the 80 to 84 wins, where I have the Twins, but I've got the Twins coming in as the third wild card.
That's pretty solid. What about the National League? I'll give you mine. My National League wildcard team. So I had for the division winners, I had the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Mets. And you had the Padres, the
So you're sticking
Cardinals,
with
and the
the Mets. You're
Mets.
not switching it to the Braves.
Oh, I did switch it to the Braves. You're right. So yeah, no, I'm a Braves truther now. I'll switch it to the Braves, and then I'll go Mets as a wild card team. I'll go Phillies as a wild card team. Harper comes back, goes off, and then I'll go with the Padres as a wild card team. So sorry to all of our Giants listeners out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had the Padres, Cardinals, and Mets. And then I basically have the same field as you, just difference between division winners and wild cards. I've got the Dodgers, Braves, and Phillies. I got the Phillies at about 87, and I have the Giants at 86. So I have the Giants falling just short. So maybe, maybe something will happen, and they can sneak in there. But yep, I got the Pods, Cards, Mets, Dodgers, Braves, Phillies.
And you asked the question earlier who the weakest division is. Now that we've kind of recapped all of them, do you have any like best division out of this group? Because
I
we
mean,
mentioned how the
I
Red Sox are a good like seller team.
yeah, I mean, I would probably have to go the AL East just because, I mean, Rays. If you look at just the bottom, the tops are all going to be good of all those divisions. Rays, Orioles, Red Sox. I mean, you got some teams in these other divisions just dragging it down. I would maybe lean to maybe the peak, like the best top of the division would maybe the NL East with the Phillies, Braves, and Mets. But the Nationals really drag that division
Yeah.
down. The Marlins could be, like a mid-70s win team maybe. Um, so I just think, as far as overall consistency, I would probably go AL East, but like the best cream of the crop would probably be the NL East. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was just about to make that point about the NL East and the Nationals, how they kind of bring it down a little bit. Um, so yeah, that for that reason, I think I'd go with the AL East too. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but by the way, I love that we're talking about the Orioles in this way. It's been a while, and I love when like
Yeah.
just like the Mariners, I like when we talk about bad teams getting good. Like obviously we
Yeah.
root for the Giants and everything, but it's been awesome seeing San Diego have that corner turned a little bit and what that's done for the city. And I know a lot of Orioles fans are happy about the way their team played last year, and it's cool that we're finally not talking about them being in the cellar. It's a change, and I think it's cool. It's even better that we're not fooled by last year because some people might be. Um, so that's
Yeah.
definitely fun.
Like I
Anyways, oh, do you want to
Yeah,
add on
we,
to
we
that?
talked about not doing we talked about not doing a full postseason. We'll do that in September. But who do you have in the World Series? I mean, I feel
Yes,
like we can at least say who's in the World Series to start the year, so we can laugh at ourselves in a few months.
the Atlanta Braves are in the World Series, and I feel like I had something else last yesterday. I did Torture Cast yesterday. Shout out to Chad and Eric, and I feel like I'm about to pick two different teams from what I picked yesterday on Torture Cast. But I'll go with the Braves, and you know what? I'm gonna go with Houston. I'm gonna go with the Braves and the Astros again. So we're gonna get a 2019 rematch or 2020, no, 2021, no, yes, 2021 rematch.
There you go. All
What
right.
about
Well,
you?
hey, we have completely different World Series matchup. I got the Blue Jays coming out of the American League, and I've got the Mets coming out of the National League.
Oh, that's a good matchup.
I just think, for the Mets, you have some doubts and reasonably so about the top of their rotation just with their age. Um, but I mean, they're workhorses. I don't see, Verlander's just a year or two still removed from Tommy John. Usually the arm is good for a while after that. And he was just lights out last year. Scherzer's already throwing 100 pitches a game in spring training. Um, and I just don't, pitching wins in the postseason more times than not. And I just don't see anyone that wants to go up against Scherzer and Verlander, potentially like 5 times in a 7-game series.
Yeah, and
So I've
if
got them kind of carrying, and then their offense is no slouch either. So that's why I've got the
mhm.
Mets coming out. And then the Blue Jays is kind of a mixture of the offense and pitching. Their pitching is solid, maybe a little unproven postseason wise thus far, but their offense is so young and fun and talented that I could see them really blowing the roof off this place in October.
Yeah, no, that's a good. And if the Mets play it right, then Scherzer and Verlander will be rested throughout the year, and they're going to be ready for that
Yeah.
postseason series. Maybe more so than they were this year with DeGrom in the mix there in New York too. And now you have Verlander in there, but weirdly enough to say this, I do want to see a World Series in New York. Like I would be interested to see that again, and I definitely want to see a World Series in Toronto. So. I'm sure the first one was an unpopular
Yeah.
opinion. A World Series in New York, really, Steven? But um,
So original. It's
yeah,
never
so
happened before.
yeah, exactly. We just haven't seen it in a while,
But
you know.
yeah.
2009 was a long
Yeah.
time ago. So blow the roof off this place.
Yeah.
And let's blow the
Yeah.
roof off this place with
Yeah.
some. Sorry, go ahead. I cut
Should
you
we
off.
name a world champion to start the season? I mean, I figure we name the matchup. Should we name a winner?
Dusty
So who
Baker
you got,
back.
Braves or Stros?
Dusty Baker back to back.
And then goes off into the sunset.
Yes, actually, yes.
Do you think he would retire?
Good
I would too
add-on.
if I were him. If he wins again, great. I'm gonna go Toronto. You know, I've got a. I'm not a Jays fan, but I got a maple leaf tattooed on my arm. I'm going Jays. You know, it'll be awesome for the team, the fans up there. They haven't won a World Series in 30 years, and they're a fun group to get behind. So I'll go Jays, and then let's see how wrong we are in 6 months there.
Yes. Touch them all, Bo. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh, nice. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the standings. You know, that's teams, but there's also, the players are who we come to see and watch. So let's do some postseason awards, or after the season awards, not postseason awards, but MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year. Let's start with the American League, Steven. Who is the American League MVP?
The American League MVP is arguably the face of, or the one of the future faces and one of the current faces of baseball, Julio Rodriguez, who's going to be in Seattle for a long time. A genuine five-tool guy who hits homers, who runs, who's good in the outfield. He does it all. I honestly think he's a star. I love him. I'm going to go with Julio. I think he's going to have a big year, but there's some good options in the American League, and no shade to Aaron Judge or Ohtani. Ohtani is probably the safe pick. Vegas probably loves him very much, but I'll go with
Yeah, I mean he's
Julio.
he's my pick. I mean, how do you pick against a guy who's a combination of basically Max Scherzer and Matt Olson? I mean, he's kind of a cheat code, but it's like how do you not pick him? So I mean, it is a safe bet for sure. But it's what I think is going to happen. And I hope it does, because I think if he stays healthy, I don't see how he doesn't.
Yeah.
It's always interesting too. A team that we're predicting to finish fourth in their division is going to have the most valuable player in baseball. But, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him this year with it being his contract year and everything. He's obviously going to be motivated to go out there. I mean, I always kind of laugh at people like he's going to be motivated. Like these guys are a whole nother level of competitive. They're professional athletes for a reason. But that's probably a little added motivation for him, is he's playing towards a huge payday. I think he's going to be above 500 million next off season. I think you're a little lower than that, when you like 450 range, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a safe bet, but that's my bet.
Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with Ohtani at all. And yeah, it is interesting that the fourth team in the division is gonna have another MVP. He won it already, and Trout's been there a while, and for whatever reason, that team, I keep going back to it, they can't get over the hump. But Ohtani, I mean, he's got the momentum too going into this season. And there's so much. There's actually a few options in the American League. Jose Ramirez is always a safe
Yeah,
pick, it seems.
Ramirez. Yeah.
There's probably a few others
Judge,
too.
obviously, Jordan
Yep.
Alvarez.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
A lot of offense there.
yeah.
But I do like the Ohtani pick. What about Cy Young in the American League?
I'm gonna go with Garrett Cole. It's also, I mean, there's a lot of arms there, so it's not necessarily as safe a bet as Ohtani, but I think he needs to have a big year for the Yankees because of all those other injuries. He's got the strikeouts that everyone looks at. Usually, pretty minuscule ERA going. He's playing on the biggest stage as a Yankee, so I've got him bringing home the Cy.
There you go. And I have Framber Valdez bringing home the Cy. 29 years old, the ace who's now going to be the ace of the Astros, the number 2 guy last year behind Verlander. He pitched 200 innings last year. We forget that. So, that's really interesting to me. And he was
Yeah.
up there and a lot of the leaderboards in the American League. I think he's a bulldog. He's durable. And I think he's a guy that's going to get a lot of Cy Young votes this
Hmm.
year. So he's my guy, Framber.
Nice.
And then
Um,
Rookie of the
AL
Year.
Rookie of the Year, the
Yeah.
guys who will soon be, Rookie of the Year, the guys who are soon all going to be younger than Steven Risotto. But this guy is not. I'm going to go with Gunnar Henderson for the Orioles. Highly touted. I think he's usually right now he's like a top 2 or 3 prospect in baseball on most lists if he's still on the prospect lists. I think a big thing too is he's going to be playing every day from the start of the season for the Orioles. You get a lot of guys who come up mid-year and have great, but if he can produce for the whole season, which I kind of expect him to, and we've talked about the Orioles a bit and how they're kind of up and coming. I think he's going to make an impact for them. And so playing the hot corner every day, I've got him as the American League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'm gonna go with Hunter Brown. We mentioned it before. Uh Verlander going kind of opened a door for him. Everything that's being said about him is good. So that is one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at. He's pitched well in the minor leagues. He's one of their top pitching prospects, one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. I'm going to go with Hunter Brown. He's kind of hurt to start the year. He's had a back injury, but he should be good to go for opening week. Maybe they skip a start because of the off days, but we'll have to see. But Hunter Brown is my guy. He's electric, got electric stuff, got electric curveball. That's his big pitch. So I'm going to go with Hunter
Yeah.
Brown. So he's my guy. Now, this next one is
Yeah.
tough. And I believe Gunnar Henderson is somebody I
Nice.
traded to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've mentioned every guy you've traded to me. And who did I trade you? I traded you Muncie. Uh,
Because
man, this
my dumbass forgot to
makes me
get a
feel
second
good.
baseman.
Yeah. Drafting a full team is important in fantasy baseball. Take it from Steven. Um, yeah, who did I trade you even? Muncie,
CJ Abrams.
BJ Abrams, and that deal. We're in 2 leagues together, and then there was a trade in the Twitter league right away too. Oh well, but yeah, it makes me feel good that talking about postseason predictions that we've talked about all 4 guys you traded me, so I'll take that. Um, so AL Manager of the Year, I'm going with Scott Service. I've picked the Mariners to kind of surprise everybody and win that division. I don't think people are surprised if they get in the postseason again, but I don't think most people are going to pick them to surpass Dusty and the Astros. So I feel like if he can pull that off, he'll be the American League Manager of the Year.
Yeah, and Terry Francona won it last year, and he did it with a really young team. So I'm foreshadowing
Mm-hmm.
the same thing, the same kind of process for Brandon Hyde, who I projected to miss the division, but I think the Orioles are going to be pretty good. And I think Hyde and his leadership is going to bring a lot to the table in terms of helping those guys and putting them in a good spot to succeed. It's hard predicting manager of the year. It's hard voting on it because there's always
Yeah,
like 5 guys that could probably win it each year, but I'd probably go with Brandon Hyde.
yeah. If I think both of our picks are kind of if the teams play how we predict them
Yeah.
to, then it's a pretty easy choice.
It would be unfair to
Um,
say Dusty, wouldn't it? Because like he's got a stacked team.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of the times, unless just like everybody kind of plays to, the stack teams all dominate and there's no kind of surprise teams, then you're going to end up picking a guy with a stacked team. It's kind of like why Dave Roberts hasn't won that many of them because the Dodgers are always stacked.
Yeah.
Um, so moving over to the National League, MVP, I'm going Mookie Betts. I feel like with some of those holes, but the movement out from their offense and kind of who's replacing those. I think he's going to be the catalyst that keeps them going and makes sure that they still make the playoffs. I do have them in second in the division, but the top wild card team. Part of the reason I didn't pick a Padres because they're so stacked. It's like, okay, you take Soto off the team and they still have Machado and Tatis and Bogarts. And then, yeah, so I love Mookie too. He's like him and Kershaw, I just wish were on any other team but the Dodgers because I like them so much as people. Um, and so, yeah, I'm going Mookie to win the MVP. I think that would give him an MVP in each league.
Yeah, that would. That's a good call. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Arenado, and this is gonna be the year. So he's kind of trending down this path already, but after this year, we are officially going to be considering Nolan Arenado a lock for Cooperstown. So I know we've been kind of saying, oh, he's on track. He's a probable guy that's going to be discussed. But this is going to be the year where he wins the MVP. And if you look at the numbers, or if you look at the rankings that where he's placed in this award, 2015, 8th place, 2016, 5th, 17, 4th, 18, 3rd, 19, 6th. And then last year he finished 3rd. So this is going to be another good year for Nolan Arenado. I know he's got his teammate there, Goldschmidt, who won it over him. So that's kind of like the Padres dilemma you were just talking about. A lot of guys doing big things could cause some conflict with the numbers and the voters, the way the voters vote on this. But Arenado's my guy. I think he's going to officially put himself in the conversation for serious Hall of Fame candidacy. So
nice, yeah. Yeah, I love watching Nolan Arenado. He always killed the Giants, and I mean, still does, but just less often. But he's so fun to watch, offense and defense. I just love to watch. I do love watching his defensive highlights more than his offense. I mean, he's just an amazing third baseman. I think he's the full package as a ball player. I agree. I don't know if it's after this year, but I do think he is going to be in Cooperstown. And you mentioned how often he's in the discussion. It's about time that he is the guy this year. So I like that pick.
And you know what's one thing interesting about Arenado is that he goes out there every day. So he and he's had, let's see, so he's played parts of 10 years. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of or 6 years of over 150 games played. So he goes out there and plays. And this is another thing I didn't realize. He doesn't strike out that much. So this past year, he had 620 plate appearances, which counted for 557 at bats. He walked 52 times, and he struck out in 557 at bats. He struck out 72 times. In an era where we're striking out so much, Arenado is not. He's essentially lowered his strikeout rate from even some of his best offensive seasons. Yeah. So, and last year arguably was his best by a lot. He had a 154 OPS plus. And then his second below that was 2018 when he had a 133. So last year he was just so good. And I'm expecting another big year from him. Pitching wise, what do you got?
All right. So, yeah, I've got Corbin Burnes winning the NL Cy Young. I think, he's been right there on the doorstep a few times. I think he's extra motivated from how the Brewers handled arbitration for him. I think he's going to come out on fire. I mean, you talked about earlier how him and Woodruff are kind of one of the top 1-2 punches in the game. I think he shows he is the solid number one there. And so I've got him bringing the Cy Young to Milwaukee.
Yeah, that can't go wrong with that pick. And we mentioned kind of that 2-horse rotation there with him and Woodruff. Just really good stuff. And my guy is someone who we mentioned earlier in a kind of, I guess, spotty rotation to some degree, and it's Julio Urias. And I think the reason he'll get Cy Young votes is he's not only going to pitch well, but he's going to carry the Dodgers rotation. I think he's good enough to pitch in really big games. He's been around enough. He's durable, from the left side. And he's a guy who in postseason, and I know postseason doesn't count for Cy Young, but we always kind of see him coming out of the bullpen for postseason. And I think that's, speaks volume to how much the Dodgers think he could do in terms of durability. And there's going to be another big year for him. He's one of the top 10 pitchers in baseball, and they're going to need to rely a lot on him without Bueller, with Kershaw getting older. This is Julio Urias' staff for the foreseeable future. So he's my Cy Young pick. And then we got a Rookie of the Year. What do you got?
Yeah. I've got another guy named Corbin. I've got Corbin Carroll for the
Nice,
Diamondbacks.
nice.
You know, speed, power, defense. I mean, he's kind of the whole package. We talked a little bit about how the Diamondbacks might surprise some people this year, and I think a big part of that is going to be Corbin Carroll's emergence onto the scene in the big leagues.
Corbin Carroll, that's pretty solid guy. And he's a part of that outfield trio in Arizona that is just so good. Um, so my Rookie of the Year, I didn't really prepare one, but we shouted him out earlier, and I'm gonna go with him for the heck of it. Jordan Walker. Let's give Jordan Walker a shout out from the St. Louis Cardinals, the May 2002 birthday. And Baseball America before this year had him as the number 4 prospect in all of baseball. MLB has him at number 4. Baseball Prospectus has him at number 2. So he is obviously very highly ranked. And last year in Double A, so he's going to make the jump. Has not played a Triple A game. He hit 306 with an 898 OPS with 19 homers and 68 RBIs last year. Just a guy who's going to hit. And maybe there's going to be some growing pain there, but the former first round pick in 2020, I think he's going to make an impact on St. Louis. And he will always have a special place in my heart for being the first one that is younger than me. So shout out to Jordan Walker.
There we go. Yeah, and then to wrap it up here on the awards, I'm going with Bob Melvin as the NL Manager of the Year. I mean, we did talk about how stacked the offense is, but I think how he manages that pitching staff, if he can get as much out of him as he needs to win the division, like I'm predicting them to, and kind of the lack of other surprises in the National League, because we even chose the same 6 teams to make the playoffs in the National League, so I don't think there's a lot of surprises there. So, maybe the team that supplants the team that won 111 last year to take that division will get the nod. So I'm going Bob Melvin for the Padres.
There we go. That's a good one too. Bob Melvin, of course, had to deal with a lot last year, and this is going to be a big year for him and the Padres because they might have an opening, like we've kind of covered a little bit. So my pick is very similar to my American League pick. I picked Brandon Hyde, who I predicted would narrowly miss the playoffs with Baltimore. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing with Torey Lovullo and the Diamondbacks. I think they're going to make another, they're going to have another year of big strides of being a good team. And I think Lovullo is going to have a lot to do with it. I think it coexists with your Corbin Carroll pick. And he's definitely somebody that I could completely see get in there and be a really big front runner for that award. So Torey Lovullo is definitely my pick. So yeah, no, that's pretty much it. And anyhow, we're gonna look back at this, Tyler, and we're gonna be wrong on a lot of things, and I think we're gonna be right on a lot of things. But I guess that's just kind of how season predictions work, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's what the beauty of baseball is. We all have opinions. A lot of the times they're wrong, but we get to look at it for 6 months and realize for a long time how wrong we were. But I think we're going to be right on quite a few too. I think I had a lot of fun doing this. I think there's we gave some fun insight, hopefully, and I'm looking forward to looking back at this with you at the end of September and seeing where it all ended up.
Yeah, we should actually plan something where we go back and look at all of our preseason predictions and see how right we were. That would be actually a fun episode to go back and do that. But yeah, I have not been excited for a baseball season like this one um in a long time. I think the WBC had a lot to do with that, but I'm ready to go, and of course we are ready to go. We're gonna shut it down, just like I think we shut it down today, Tyler.
We did, and we'll shut it down when we review our predictions at the end of the season. But I had a lot of fun doing this. It was good to kind of, good little exercise to get excited for the season, is look over everything and see where you think it's going to end up. And so I had a lot of fun. Hope you did too, my friend, and hopefully the listeners as well.
And we blew the roof off this place.
We blew the roof off this place.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna use that now. Yes.
And for our listeners who are Giants fan specific, Steven and I are going to be doing a Giants prediction show with our Giants chatter team. So that'll be we're doing that tonight, but you can always go back and watch that as well if you want some Giant specific content.
Yes, go check that out. All most of the admin team will be there. It should be a lot of fun. Pretty chill, low key. I'm very excited to hear other people's thoughts because there's times where I'm talking to the Giants about my to myself, and I'm like, God, I wonder what other people think about this, and I'm finally going to get that chance. And I'm sure you are as well. So I'm excited that we're going to get to reconvene on that. And of course, everybody could follow the podcast on Twitter at @shutdown_inning. Go check us out. Subscribe on all the platforms, all the podcast networks, and even YouTube as well. And go give us a rating. Go comment how much you like it because I know you like it. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening. And we shut it down again. And have a good day.
That's what's up.